So I'll be speaking on diabetic vitreoretinal surgery. So indications, all of us know, I would not go too much into that. I would start off with the preoperative planning and the surgery itself. So we have seen that a laser diabetic is definitely easier to operate. If the systemic control of the patient is better, the patient on table performs better, the surgery is easier. So and if patient is on dialysis, it's a good idea to get the dialysis done prior to the surgery, and the anticoagulant should be adjusted according to the physician's discretion. It is better to give preoperative anti-VEGFs, and I have started giving them in almost all my complicated cases at least. And if the case is less complicated, even a day prior is enough. Otherwise, better to give it, and it should stay in the eye for 3 to 4 days. If there is a significant cataract, then depending on your surgical capabilities, you could get the cataract removed prior to it, or you can do it in the same sitting. The most important thing in diabetic surgery is identification of the planes. And the first plane is the plane of the posterior hyaloid. So if the posterior hyaloid is already present, it is an easier surgery. Otherwise, we should identify where it is present and try to make an opening in it. And through it, if there is subhyaloid blood present, drain it and then extend that opening 360 degrees. So here, as I have marked with these arrows, here is the initial opening in the posterior hyaloid that I have made with the cutter. And now I will slowly extend it 360 degrees, and then we'll reach the pre-retinal surface and drain the blood. Now, in certain cases, the hyaloid is attached in a tented manner to the retina, and you can have gaps between the hyaloid, which give you your instrument's access. And these cases are slightly easier to operate as opposed to other cases where the posterior hyaloid is totally plastered to the retina. And here, probably bimanual instrumentation helps to create a plane between the hyaloid and the fibrovascular proliferation and the underlying retina. So to simplify dissection, we can use hybrid surgeries with a 23 gauge port and a 25 gauge and a chandelier. 23 gauge scissors are easier to manipulate for beginners, and then you can shift on to 25 gauge. And the second instrument helps you to hold the front, and you can then insert your scissors in the right plane and prevent injury to the retina. So this is a recent study in which the on-fast OCT analysis showed that the hyaloid is more tightly adherent around the arcades than in the center and the peripapillary area. So, and I also find this that in diabetics, the adhesion is very strong here. So sometimes it is easier to take your scissors inside the central cauldron and then go from inside out and try to create a plane. This is the same on a B scan. So this central area, the adhesions might not be that tight, and you might be able to get a plane there. And so this is called radial segmentation, which can be from inside out or outside in. So you are going directly towards the central fovea and trying to segment these membranes. And also the other thing that you have to do is you have to identify these tiny pegs which are connecting these membranes, and we can cut these pegs to remove them. Bimanual surgery also helps us to stop bleeders. So in one hand, we have the backflush, which can remove the blood, and in the other, we have the cautery. Identify the bleeder and instantly cauterize it. Sometimes we can use intraoperative OCT to identify any small breaks. Also, we must know when to stop. If we keep on doing surgery, extensive surgery, we might create more iatrogenic breaks. So it might be a better idea to sometimes leave the nasal proliferation, just clear the disc and macula and end the surgery there. So I'll show you some surgical videos. This is a case with a large prehyaloid hemorrhage. So here we are trying to first create an opening in the tight hyaloid, which is lying over the bleed. You can do it with forceps, you can do it with suction. So once you will have the opening and you can see the sheet coming, and again we are holding it with the forceps. You have to gently remove the sheet. As we remove the sheet, we see that it is further attached to these fibrovascular proliferations at the arcade. So here comes your judgment and your experience. If you feel that the adhesions are strong, then you would rather stop and segment. And if you feel that no, you can pull them off, then you can also delaminate them in one go. So here, some of these pegs I'm cutting with the scissors, and slowly now with the cutter, taking it in an en bloc technique, the entire thing anteriorly, completing the vitrectomy, draining out the blood, and we have a nice healthy posterior pole. Patient would gain good vision. This is a more complicated case where you have a tabletop sort of TRD. So here I'm using bimanual dissection, And like I showed you, just lifting the membrane gently with one hand and trying to create that plane between the fibrovascular membrane and the retina. Just as Professor Parijat showed us beautifully in that case of stage 5 ROP, I think this is something like that, dissection, and we have to not try to damage the retina and not try to create more and more iatrogenic breaks, and be gentle, create a central cauldron that I was talking about, where the adhesions might not be that strong and the adhesions are stronger here along the arcades. So a combination of dissection with the cutter and with the scissors helps us to complete such cases. So again, proceeding to segmentation now near the arcades. So we are creating that gap between the retina and the fibrovascular proliferation and inserting one lip of the scissors under the membrane, using the scissors as a blunt dissector as well, and snipping it into two. So many times you would have the bleeders coming up, and it is a good idea to manage the bleeding at the same time. Just raise the bottle height, the bleeders would stop, and then you can use your bimanual technique or your cautery to stop the bleeders. If we let the bleeding happen, it forms a second membrane, and the second membrane sometimes becomes even more difficult to remove than the primary case itself. So here, without the scissors, I'm now using the cutter itself because I thought there is a gap between the membrane and the retina, and the cutter itself is being used to segment this sort of membrane. So in the end, this is the nasal part which we are just cauterizing. So we are leaving these nasal segments. The disc macula is clear, and again this case can be left just under air. Another such complicated case where the posterior pole is involved with the traction. So first of all, clear the posterior hyaloid and the overlying vitreous. Where you feel there is a gap, you try to create an opening so that you can lift the flap. And once the flap is lifted, then you are better able to appreciate the planes of the retina and the fibrovascular proliferation. And just like I showed you earlier, going that in a radial manner and cutting the membrane from the underlying retina. So the same way, segmenting it. Sometimes we are able to lift off the fibrovascular proliferation directly from the disc also. And it's a good idea to cauterize all the areas where you have cut to avoid post-operative bleeding. Now, in other such case, and in this case, what I wanted to highlight, which I've started doing recently, is also limited ILM peeling. So what I do is that I stain, and if some residual traction is left around the arcades, I just do limited peeling from the fovea towards the arcades. Now you see that because of the fluid under the retina, it's mobile. So the retina is detached. So it has to be a slow process and it has to be carefully done. You don't need to do an extensive peel. And if you can possibly spare the fovea also, but detach the foveal area from the area of your traction. So that I feel makes the retina more mobile, and that lets the retina go back in place. But like sir has mentioned, that I only recently started doing some of these cases, and we have to watch because sometimes ILM peeling can be traumatic also. So just do it when you feel that you need to relax the retina a bit, and then again leave these cases under air. So I can go on and show you more cases, but I think I'll stop the videos here. Sometimes we see that traction is going on till the periphery. So here again, it is a good idea to complete the vitrectomy, remove the posterior membranes first. Sorry, and also gently lift off the membrane from the disc, take it to the periphery, and not pull on it too much. Segment it with the cutter and leave it. So you see these tractional bands, but you no need to bother, just put air and leave. In some cases where you do land up creating a break, you can use silicone oil as well. But if the break is superior, then you can also get away with gas. So these are some of the cases. This was a type 1 diabetic, extensive proliferation. I could just not leave these, release these areas, but the patient did gain good vision. In other case, with the nasal hyaloid and proliferation is left, but the disc macula is okay, and the patients, such bilaterally blind patients, do get vision by which they can at least manage their daily activities. So the key points are the patient has to be systemically controlled. I prefer using preoperative anti-VEGFs. Proper identification of the planes is the key. Segmentation, delimitation, and en bloc dissection. A combination of these, a combination of a use of scissors, forceps, and cutter helps you manage these cases. And bimanual surgery and slow surgery helps avoiding gas. But yes, in certain cases, silicone oil definitely can be used, and it helps settle many of these retinas. But yes, like all others have stressed, in diabetics, the best idea is a very good systemic control so that the patient doesn't land up in such a situation at all. Thank you. Thank you very much.